As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the desolate road, I realized I was in for a long night. My car had sputtered to a stop in the middle of nowhere, the engine giving its final death rattle. The darkness seemed to seep into my bones, and a chill ran down my spine. My phone had no signal, leaving me isolated from the world. I decided to stay with my car, hoping that someone would pass by and offer help. Hours crawled by, and my imagination began to play tricks on me. Every rustle of leaves or distant sound seemed like the approach of some unseen horror. The faint glow of the moon revealed shapes that morphed into sinister figures in my mind. With a jolt, I heard footsteps behind me. My heart raced as I turned, expecting to see a rescuer, but there was nothing. Just an empty road and the oppressive silence of the night. I knew I had to stay calm, but my thoughts were spiraling into a maze of fear. Then, a sudden scratching sound echoed from the woods. My breath caught in my throat as I strained to see what was causing it. Branches shook, and I could swear I saw eyes gleaming in the darkness. Panic surged through me, and I clutched the door handle, ready to abandon my stranded car and make a run for it. Before I could act, a piercing scream tore through the night. My heart hammered against my chest, and I felt a primal terror take hold of me. The woods seemed alive with hidden terrors, and I was trapped in the middle of the domain. Time lost all meaning as I huddled in my car, praying for dawn to break. Finally, as the first rays of light broke through the trees, a passing motorist spotted me. Relief flooded over me as they pulled over to offer help. I stumbled out of my car, my nerves frayed and my mind haunted by the horrors of the night. Even though I was eventually rescued, that night remains etched in my memory as a true horror story, one where the darkness and isolation became my greatest enemies, and the line between reality and imagination blurred into a nightmare I'll never forget. I remember that fateful night as if it were yesterday. It was late autumn, and the air had a crispness to it that made the anticipation of winter palpable. My job had required me to go on a cross-country road trip, traversing desolate stretches of highway, often alone. Little did I know that on that eerie night, I would encounter a horror beyond imagination. The clock struck midnight as I found myself navigating a desolate road in the heartland of America. The darkness was suffocating, the road illuminated only by my car's flickering headlights. Countless miles passed by without any sign of civilization, leaving only the unnerving quietness of the night to keep me company. Suddenly, the engine coughed and spluttered, and the car shuddered to an abrupt stop. Panic washed over me, realizing that I was stranded in the middle of nowhere, with no cell phone signal to call for help. Swallowing my fear, I gathered my senses and decided to walk along the isolated road in search of assistance. As I trudged through the darkness, a sense of foreboding crept into my bones. The quietness was unnerving, almost unnatural. Ahead, a flickering light caught my attention, distant but beckoning. Desperation guided my steps towards the source, my heart pounding with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Approaching the dimly lit building on the side of the road, I noticed a worn-out sign that read, "The Lost Highway Diner." Relief washed over me. Maybe the people inside could help me. Pushing open the creaky door, I stepped into a time-worn establishment that seemed frozen in a forgotten era. Inside, a handful of patrons huddled in booths, casting nervous glances in my direction. Their eyes carried a weight, as if they had seen the true horrors of the road. Ignoring their apprehension, I approached the counter, where a middle-aged woman with tired eyes stood. Before I could request assistance, she spoke with an eerie calmness. "You shouldn't be here, traveler. This is no ordinary road. It's cursed, and anyone who finds themselves stranded upon it becomes trapped within its grasp." Her words sent chills crawling up my spine, but disbelief still clung to my consciousness. What could possibly curse a road, trapping those who stumble upon it? I questioned, feeling the sudden urge to leave. The woman's voice lowered to a whisper, her eyes darting around as if fearing eavesdropping specters. Legend has it that this road was built upon an ancient burial ground, unleashing vengeful spirits that feed upon the souls of those who dare to cross their path. A cold shiver cascaded down my spine, threatening to consume me. I turned towards the exit, my mind screaming to escape this forsaken place. But before I could reach the door, the lights flickered, plunging the diner into darkness. Panic coursed through my veins as murmurs of fear rose from the other patrons. A chilling wind howled outside, rattling windows and doors as if urging us to remain trapped. Panic consumed me as I realized the woman had spoken the truth. I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Days turned to weeks, as the lost souls within the diner clung to whatever remnants of hope remained. We tried in vain to escape the confines of the road, but it seemed as if its curse had consumed us all. Shadows whispered in the perpetual darkness, and the agonizing screams of those who had been trapped before echoed through the night. I tell you this story not as a survivor, but as a prisoner, forever bound to the terrors of the lost highway. Should you find yourself driving through the heartland of America, beware the desolate roads that stretch for miles on end. For if you become stranded, you too may find yourself trapped, forever haunted by the horrors that lurk within the cursed lost highway.
As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desolate stretch of highway, a sense of unease began to settle in. I was driving alone through a remote area, my GPS indicating no signs of civilization for miles. The road seemed to stretch endlessly ahead, disappearing into the darkness. My car's engine suddenly sputtered and died, leaving me stranded in the middle of nowhere. Panic started to creep in as I checked my phone, no signal. I stepped out of the car, hoping to catch a glimpse of any distant lights or hear the faint hum of a nearby town. But all I could hear was the eerie silence of the night. With no other choice, I popped the hood and peered at the engine, hoping to find a simple issue I could fix. But everything appeared normal, and my limited knowledge of car mechanics wasn't much help. As I stood there, trying to decide what to do, I heard a faint rustling sound from the surrounding woods. My heart raced, and I glanced nervously into the trees. Struggling to ignore the growing unease, I retrieved my flashlight from the trunk and shined it into the woods, revealing nothing but swaying branches and the glint of distant animal eyes. I decided to return to my car and lock the doors, trying to convince myself that my imagination was playing tricks on me. As I settled into the driver's seat, I heard a soft tapping on the window. My breath hitched as I slowly turned to face the window, my flashlight beam revealing a pale face pressed against the glass. The figure's eyes were wide and vacant, a grotesque smile stretching across its lips. I let out a scream, fumbling to start the car, and the figure vanished from view. The engine roared to life, and I sped away, my heart pounding in my chest. As I drove, the sense of dread remained, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every rustle of leaves, every flicker of movement in the shadows, sent shivers down my spine. The road seemed to stretch on forever, with no signs of life in sight. Finally, I spotted a faint glow in the distance, a small gas station. Relief washed over me as I pulled into the station, desperate for safety and the chance to escape the nightmare that had unfolded on that desolate road. I rushed inside, gasping for breath, and told the attendant about the strange figure and the horrifying events that had transpired. But the attendant just stared at me, his expression unnervingly calm. "You're not the first to experience something like this around here," he said quietly, his eyes seeming to hold a secret. "This stretch of road has a dark history, and those who venture through it late at night often encounter things that shouldn't be." As he spoke, a chill ran down my spine, and I realized that my harrowing experience was just one chapter in a long history of eerie encounters along that road. I left the gas station, vowing to never return to that haunted stretch of highway, forever haunted by the memory of that pale, smiling face in the darkness.
Listening to scary horror content just like this? Then hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you are updated on when I post a new video.